Good morning. It's Friday, February 20th, 2015. This is Tech Talk Today, episode 137, if you can believe that. And it's a Friday episode. And from time to time, I have committed to experimenting with the show formula on Fridays to make Fridays fun and interesting for you. So later on, we're going to cover some news at the top like we do. And then later on in the show, we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to tell you about a change I'm making in my life and hopefully to make my work better. And I've just begun the journey this week, and so I'm going to give you updates from time to time on Fridays in the show, and I'm going to tell you about that here in a minute. It's going to be a new segment on the show, but first, we got to follow up on some pretty interesting news throughout the week, so let me bring in the Mumble Room, so that way we can talk about all this stuff. Time-appropriate greetings, Mumble Room.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, guys.
Greetings.
Hello. Welcome to the show. Welcome, guys. Eric, I heard that you hurt your ankle in a tragic ninja incident. How are you doing, buddy?
I did. It's very sprained. It looks like it's got a multicolored golf ball coming out the side, but it's wrapped. I've got ice on it. I'm doing okay as long as I don't move.
And on the silver lining guy. You know me, Eric. I'm a silver lining guy. It means you're going to join us on a Friday. So, hey-o!
That's right.
All right.
Yay.
Let's follow up for our first story on Lenovo. Oh my gosh. Talk about a company that's blown it. And by the way, fantastic technical breakdown on the whole certificate issue and the major implementations, let's call it that, of what that is and how people can exploit it. Great breakdown in TechSnap 202 yesterday. Alan knocked it out of the park. I mean, this is his territory. And so now here's a little follow-up from yesterday's episode. Lenovo has committed, according to the Wall Street Journal, and they are citing the CTO of Lenovo, Peter Horistis, I guess is how you say his name. They're going to roll out a software update to remove the Superfish adware from its laptops. They say as soon as the programmer is finished, we'll provide a tool that removes all traces of the app from people's laptops. This goes further than simply uninstalling the app. Once the app wiping software is finished tonight or tomorrow, we'll issue a press release with information on how to get it. When asked whether his company vets the software they pre-install on their machines, he said, yes, we do. Obviously, in this case, we didn't do enough. The intent of loading this tool was to help enhance our users' shopping experience. The feedback from users was that it wasn't useful, and that's why we turned it off. Our reputation is everything, and our products are ultimately how we have our reputation. Oh, well, now you get it, don't you? You get it now that you got caught. Wasn't that when you could make a few bucks off their ads?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting thing in the chat room just posted right now. Windows Defender had an update that will remove that.
You know what? InfoSec Taylor Swift totally called it. She tweeted out that you watch the next Microsoft, and that, this is so embarrassing for Microsoft because Lenovo is sort of their star hardware partner. When you want really great MacBook competitive hardware, especially when you get towards the MacBook Air range, you start looking at those carbons on Lenovo. That's a feather in Microsoft's cap. Microsoft can say, look, this is one of our providers, one of our hardware providers that ships the latest versions of Windows, building some of the best hardware in the industry. And now look at this. Look at one of their stars. This is so embarrassing for Microsoft. And it shows what the problem is fundamentally with their platform. And if you were to look at this back in the good old days of the Mac versus PC wars, this is clearly an issue that Apple would never and never has had. And this is huge egg on Microsoft's face. And we've been thinking about it in the context of how this justifies open source hardware and open source software and open source operating systems. But if you think about it from a purely commercial standpoint, where these two are still competing for desktop market share, ouch. Microsoft was betrayed by their very own.
Yikes.
Ouch. It's a hard game to play. HP, speaking of getting into hard games, wants to get into the networking hardware game in a big way. They want to target Cisco with a new line of open source networking gear. This is coming out yesterday evening. They said a new line of network switches that are manufactured by a Taiwanese company. They'll use Linux on the switches. How about that? I think that's pretty interesting. In the move, the firm, they say they want to move in this area in a big time. This is kind of a new HP. They're trying to reform areas where they can make money. And obviously, Cisco gear is a huge market. Cisco makes an estimated $47 billion in annual revenue. $47 billion. So yeah, I bet HP wants in on that. And one of the ways they're doing that is by putting Linux on this hardware. Isn't that something? It's going to be a big area.
I actually applaud that because I think Cisco needs more competition, especially in that area.
Well, and Q5Sys, you've been out at these events, these fests and stuff like that, and you've seen a ton of Linux and networking gear. I mean, this has been brewing in the background for a long time, and now here's a big player who's going to deploy some of this stuff. It seems like this has been a long time coming in some ways.
Yeah, my only concern is HP going to screw it up like a lot of the things HP screws up?
Maybe. Can they still bring legitimacy to the idea, but even if they don't have a successful product?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I hope so, but I don't know.
That'll be the wait and see.
I wonder if their motivation is to lower their production costs or to pick up on the marketing value of Linux, or a little of both.
I think a little bit of both, but also in the last couple of years, some really amazing low-end stuff has gone into the Linux kernel specifically to make it really awesome at a hardware level. One of the more recent Linux Unplugged Fest coverages we did, there was a really long and great interview with a guy who's, that's what they're shipping is all Linux-based switches and routers, and because there's been so much work in there, Linux is now in a spot that it wasn't in a couple of years ago further. So you get the marketing hype of Linux, you get also the easy monetization of a free platform that brings just a crap ton of features out of the box that you just have to put a front end in. And let's be honest, they're not even going to make a good front end. And then you put some expensive hardware on it. I mean, the margins are going to be crazy. So it makes a lot of sense, and Linux is in a good spot for it now.
Do you think it's going to give them we have no NSA in our product kind of a option or a feature?
Isn't that a nice peace of mind that you can audit the underlying operating system of your network infrastructure? That is a pretty nice peace of mind.
That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, Cisco can't do that. Nortel can't do that.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Who's the other manufacturer out of China that everybody was giving grief?
Awahe or whatever. Awahi or They're not going to be able to do that either, are they? Yeah, that is a unique advantage that HP will have shipping. I mean, and others that are already shipping the Linux hardware also already have that advantage, but HP being the big name doing it. Interesting point.
Well, especially this day and age with all the NSA scrutiny, that's going to be a huge marketing ploy on their part.
So you guys might be familiar with the Unreal Engine and the new kind of neat licensing scheme they have around it, making it a lot more accessible, pretty cheap for like a few dollars a month. You get access to the source code to the Unreal Engine. And so today, Epic Games has announced a new initiative. How about this? $5 million in Unreal Dev grants. So folks that want to start building games are going to give out $5 million in grants. They want to do a little bit of funding to help make the difference for a successful game. They say these funds can be used by the developers however they want once they get the money. And really, it's about to help some great games come out on the market using the Unreal Engine 4. The engine's been out for a little while, and they want to, I think, see some code hit the net that people can get to. And the great thing about this is the Unreal 4 engine out of the box has Linux support, and it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So that's really cool. So Epic's $5 million means we're probably going to see some games shipping pretty soon that will have some great Linux support. Now, we were going to have somebody join us today who had a question for the panel. Did he ever end up making it in here? About getting hired in IT? No. All right. Well, somebody keep an eye out for me if he shows up. We'll try to fit that in the end of the show because I think that's going to be a good discussion about getting started in IT. You're coming in from education and stuff. So in the meantime, while we wait for him to see if he does show up, I'm going to do something a little weird and a little different. I know this is sort of going to be the end of the technology portion of the show, I suppose, other than as this goes on, I'll be telling you how I'm using technology to manage this because I am a geek after all. And so I've decided that I need to address a few things in my lifestyle, primarily around my eating lifestyle. Those of you who followed me a long time know that I've had on and off issues with like just gut cramps and things like that. They constantly are issues. And also I have some sleep issues and energy problems. And I can feel my energy levels have been waning and making my current show load difficult. And so I've begun contemplating backing off on my show load, which is not really a viable option and not really the route I'd like to go. So instead, what I want to try to do is make some adjustments to my health to basically give me a little more endurance, which is going to involve diet and exercise, unfortunately. And this is something I've tried a lot before and never really been truly successful at. I mean, those of you, again, follow me, I dabble in this. I did have some success, but I've kind of plateaued off and really just haven't had time to drive any further. And I realized part of it is my head is just not on this, right? My head is not on solving that particular problem because it's good enough. I can manage it. And then I can focus on the work that I have to do, and I can focus on my family. And that is really where my priority has been lying. And it has not been lying on myself for a really long time. And as such, I think that's the reason why my energy and my endurance has trailed off over time, especially over this winter. It gets to be about 6 o'clock at night, and I can't even really function. I shouldn't really be on the road anymore. I'm so tired, and that's one of the reasons why we haven't been able to do things like bring back SciBite, one of our shows, is because I just simply can't be at the studio recording that late. One of the one show I still have now that's late is Unfilter. It starts at 6 p.m. By the time Unfilter's done, I'm usually getting out of the studio around 8:30, 9 o'clock. I'm barely making it home and getting into bed. I'm so tired because I'm so exhausted. And I have to be able to build this back up over time. And there's a lot of things I need to address. And so it's an issue I've struggled with, and I've never really broken through. So I decided maybe this time that I would work with somebody who is trained to help people with this kind of thing. So I hired myself a healthy lifestyle, like nutritional coach. Her name is Lauren. And I drove out to her house recently to talk to her. So I'm going to officially kick off the segment, you guys, and I'm going to tell you about this. So we'll set it up. Theater of the Mind. I'm getting in a car. I have no idea where I'm going. I'm driving way out to the coast. Beautiful roads. Like, I'm really impressed with how gorgeous it is. I get there. It's off the road for a while. We're driving over gravel. So picture it there. You're with me. You're in the car right now. And I told her ahead of time, I said, I'm going to bring a microphone and a recorder, and I'm going to record our conversations because I'm going to talk about this a little on the air because I'm going to be accountable for this. So I get to her house, ring the doorbell, and we start. The conversation's a little awkward because it's weird when you show up with a microphone, of course.
Podcast. So I sit or stand at a microphone,
Okay.
or sit or stand at a computer a lot.
What's your podcast?
I have a lot of them.
It's always weird. Like, I'm a podcaster, but thankfully she's like, oh yeah, I love podcasts. I'm like, oh good, you know what a podcast is, so I don't have to explain that to you. So we quickly started talking about some of the things that I wanted to accomplish and some of my goals.
My second one is come up with a food plan of sorts or something like that I can feel good about. Because one of the things I'm worried about, like in the morning, sometimes when I wake up, I'm so hungry that if I don't have something ready for me that I know is there, I stress out really bad about that, and I'll just sometimes do something dumb, like eat something sugary just to satisfy the hunger.
So I wake up, kind of early in the morning with the kids. Today I got up about 5, which is kind of on the earlier end. Sometimes I'm lucky and it skews to 6:30, 6:45. That's pretty rare, but that's my range. And when I wake up in the mornings, I'm like a monster. Like, there's something, I don't know if I've been digesting my stomach all night or what, but when I wake up, I have got to eat immediately. I'm like the Tasmanian devil. Like, I get into a whirlwind and I spin downstairs into the kitchen and my arms just go into the cupboards and I grab anything. And I'm trying to tell this to her, so she asked me about my morning routine. And I kind of start going into some of this without all the monster stuff.
Walk me through what you're, doing right now, specifically, kind of what your morning routine is and what you typically eat and do in a day.
So I wake up in the morning and I have something that has a source of caffeine. It could either be a coffee or I have these green tea energy drinks I just recently got that I'm actually meant to bring one because they're 0 sugar. That's what I'm doing right now. So it's something. I'll do something in the morning for a little bit of caffeine, and I'll usually like a little orange juice. And then I'll have a hemp protein shake later on in the morning. And then usually some protein when I get to my office, so like bacon or a sausage or coffee with coconut oil and butter in it, something like that. And then whatever I manage to get together for dinner, which could be anything from something that's just a piece of protein to going out to dinner and eating junk. So that dinner range is the most for me. Okay. And especially I find for me by the evening, my willpower to stay on any kind of diet is it's in the mornings it's the worst, and in the evenings it's the worst. It's like two ends of the spectrum of my energy, where I'm either just waking up or just winding down, where I really cheat the most. And whenever I do in the evenings, I always wake up feeling like crap the next day, which is kind of a common routine. And then I have to get up and do a show in the morning, which is even the hard part. It's Q5. The protein. So my protein shake. It is. It's not super hipster. It's called Hemp Force, and the reason why I do it is because it's non-dairy, and I can get a protein shake that doesn't have any whey protein or any dairy in it, which sits right with me. And so that's what I drink in the mornings usually before I get in the studio, and then I'll make up some bacon.
later on, as the conversation went on, of course, she started really getting on my case about exercise, the lack of it, although I've just started walking. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. And obviously, a big lack of vegetables. She kept hearing me say protein and this and kind of stuff like that, but the vegetables, she noticed completely were lacking, and I admit that is an area I am working on, but really the problem I've always had is I just don't have the motivation because I'm so damn tired, and I've been having a lot of trouble sleeping. I wake up in the middle of the night, and I end up working instead of sleeping. And she had a very simple bit of advice for me, and I thought I'd pass this along to you. If you sometimes, and maybe this is more common if you're self-employed, I don't know, you just kind of wake up in the middle of the night, and you're awake. It might be 3 a.m., but you're ready to go. In fact, you probably feel more awake at 3 a.m. than you did at 6 a.m. when you actually are supposed to wake up. So why not, if you're feeling great, why not get up and do some work? You got some stuff on your mind. Let's get it done. So I was kind of telling her about this, and this kind of leads up to me being exhausted throughout the day, which then sort of leads me to skip on the exercise.
Well, I hurt my rib a couple of weeks ago, and that really kind of started because then I couldn't sleep on my side and I couldn't roll over. But now I just kind of wake up. But even before then, though, it's gotten to the point now where I'm waking up, and like if I wake up at 1 or 3 in the morning, I'll just get up and work for like an hour and then go back to bed, because if I just lay in bed, I never fall asleep. But sometimes if I get up for a little bit and then go back to bed, then I'll fall asleep.
Okay.
So,
Do you feel like you have stuff on your mind when you're waking up then?
sometimes, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it is probably one suggestion I have with that, because this happens to me sometimes too. Like I feel like I'm dreaming about stuff that I need to do with work, and then I feel like awake and want to do it too.
Yeah.
Do like a brain dump before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Like write out your to-dos for the next day, and that way you're not thinking about it, because everyone always thinks about what they have to do while they're laying in bed, and then if you don't write it down, it's just gonna go into your subconscious when you're sleeping. So if you have it written down,
Like
then
that.
you can relax and get it off your mind, and you just come do it in the morning like, okay, this is what I need to do. So that's helpful.
So that's what I'm going to work on, is I'm going to start writing things down, and then I'll go back to bed. Or before I even go to bed, I'm going to do a brain dump. And I got to start working on more vegetables. And I've started doing walks. So I was going to tell you a little bit about this. So this is sort of all part of this process. And that's kind of, she really was sort of validating what I've started to do too. Because I was like, if I'm going to do this again and I'm really, really, truly going to commit to this, I want to make sure that like she agrees with what I'm doing. If I'm really going to go in all this so I can buy off on it, I'd like to have somebody has a little more expertise than me. So I kind of went through this, I'm walking on Mondays and walking on Fridays. I'm trying to eat more vegetables. And of course, she really sort of pushed that point, which I was trying to avoid. I was like, well, what if I just had fruits and protein? She's like, no. Put some spinach in your protein shake. Do something like that. So I'm trying to eat more avocados. That's one thing I'm going to be doing. Exercising more, at least walking twice a week. And I've cut back on all pops too. So I know. And I know Westix Jeff says I have to get on the CPAP. Shut up, Westix. Shut up. So there you go. And if you want to, the reason why I'm doing this publicly is to make myself accountable, because I'm going to follow up with you guys. But also, if you want to follow along, you can too. We'll go on a journey together. And it's in part to lose weight, but it's really just to have a healthier lifestyle and sleep better. And then sleep, and then all of that goes into the next stuff. So I'll do it from
I'd
time to
join
time.
you on it if I had a foot to walk on.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So I'm going to be following up with, I have follow-up appointments with Lauren every couple of weeks. I might record some of those and share any insights that she provides with me that I think might be useful for you. That'll mark the beginning of the journey, and I'll just do some updates from time to time. I hope it works out, because really what I'm hoping is by summer, that's kind of why I'm doing it now, is I'm hoping by summer I'm feeling pretty good and I'm able to stay up, really, because what I'd like to be able to do is go home after working all day and have a lot of energy to play with the kids. And then be able to still wake up early in the morning with them and then come in here and do the shows and all that. That's kind of what my end goal is. And I think that's pretty doable. It's not like I want to I don't have some crazy goal. I think that's pretty reasonable. We'll see. Maybe it's the sleep apnea. Maybe I will eventually have to address that as well. And if you'd like to check out...
Chris, UBCQTML is with us.
Oh, okay, great. Right before we get to that, if you'd like to check out Lauren's work, she's in the Pacific Northwest, and she was really great. You can check her out at sweatthesweetstuff.com. Sweatthesweetstuff.com. I'll have a link in the show notes. And it was great. She let us go up to her house and talk to her. It was really useful. So, okay. So we do have, who was it, Eric, that you said? Eric.
UBCQTML.
Okay, so you were here earlier. So UBQCTML, you were the guy that wanted to ask a question to the group in the show today, right?
No.
No. Eric, what are you talking about? Are you drunk over there, Eric? Are you taking painkillers for that ankle, Eric? Eric's
Well,
crazy,
Tech
man.
Dog did want to talk about it too because
Oh.
he's got the same question.
All right, Tech Dog, go for it.
Well, I got hired on by IBM when I was 20, and worked on their mid-range stuff. Then went over to Apple and was an Apple tech, IBM PS2 tech, phones system administrator for small companies and all that. Then I went out on my own as a residential technical integrator. Been doing that for 10 years. And, the economy changing and technology changing and all that, I'd like to get back into the corporate world. And after having been out, I did technical training for 7 years and hardware, software support, all of that. Having been out 10 years, the HR headhunter people say those skills are no longer relevant. And I got a few certifications back when Apple was a rainbow Apple. And I think I got a certification for Windows NT. So I'm wondering, what's out there? I don't, there was a great thing in Linux Action Show last week from Noah about certifications in the Linux Academy, but it's like closed doors for me.
Yeah, so this is the main challenge, and this is something that really burned me out in IT. Is it's almost quaint if we say, the nature of the IT industry is that it is always changing. I mean, duh. That's kind of why we like it. So we all get that. But the flip side of that is how then, if the industry is always changing and chasing the new hotness, how do you know what skill sets to stay on top of versus which ones were like more relevant during the last wave of what's hot? And this is obviously a totally unpaid plug. I will get no money for this. But Linux Academy, I mean, the nice thing is because they follow it so closely, they to stay competitive are staying competitive in that area. And so that's one way that I follow that. But to be honest with you, this is fundamentally the problem with over-specializing, and always the line that I had to walk, because I would watch people, specifically Cisco specialists or System 390 specialists or SQL specialists or people in that, like that data area, they could go make maybe an extra $30,000 over what I was making. It always really pissed me off because I thought, I wish I could just settle down. I wish I could just focus on one thing, and I wish I could just really go deep. And what I have done, what I've learned I have done instead over the years is my nature to be a generalist and try out a whole bunch of different things. What I discovered over a period of like literally 15 years now is that I eventually narrowed it down to, well, it's Linux, it's open source, it's in this realm. And so over time, because I spent so much time generalizing and now then focusing in this broader spectrum, if I were to go out and sell myself as an IT consultant today, I would be a Linux and open source implementation specialist. That's what I would sort of sell myself as. It's general, yet broad. I mean, it's broad and general, yet specific to a knowledge set that means I understand this ecosystem, I understand these communities, I understand this software stack, and then when I need to, my skill set allows me to research and go in deeper and dive deep. Because in reality, the person who's really, really, really going to know how to implement your PostgreSQL and your website front end with that super fancy CMS probably isn't going to know maybe how to do the storage back end and the RAID setup as well as the person that is a little bit more of a generalist. So what the problem is the hirers that are out there, because they're a bunch of dumb shits that don't know what the hell they're hiring for. They have to go by these stupid labels that really don't qualify, don't directly translate to how the actual work is done. And so what you have to do is figure out a way to sell yourself that meets their expectations, but yet is actually makes you qualified to do the actual work of the job. And the only way I've ever been able to figure out to do that is by experience of looking at a job and going, okay, well, I'm probably actually going to end up doing these things. I'm confident with my skill set that I can do those things. I'll sell myself towards them, meeting their qualifications, because I know, I trust myself that I believe I've assessed this job correctly. And honestly, if it doesn't work out, I got the 90 days, and if it doesn't work for me, I can leave too. And that's generally been my approach. That's not a one whole answer. But I just don't see it. To me, the reality of the situation, I just don't see another way around it. Like the only thing that really seems like over literally the last 10 years to totally have been like a really super solid certificate-wise investment, like, going all in on the training and getting all the certs, has been Cisco or Red Hat. I mean, man, those seem like the two, but those are super expensive to stay up on. It's a system, NOAA is constantly going back and retesting. The dude's having to fly across the country to do that. It's a no bullshit kind of test. It really takes a lot of time and study. When you're taking the test, you have to set up entire systems and you have no access to the internet while you do it. It's not a joke. So it's a serious commitment. But because of that stringent commitment, Red Hat's certification has been able to stay rather prestigious. The problem for me is I would rather put knives in my hands than work on Red Hat servers for a living. So that was never really an option for me. So even though I feel like I could get Red Hat certifications, I just wouldn't do that job. I wouldn't do that. In fact, it's one of the reasons I left. So what I saw I saw the general technology position beginning to sort of erode, because it's sort of eroding on three major fronts. You have cheaper labor coming in. You also have the fact that businesses never fully appreciate the value of a really well-trained technician, somebody who can really solve problems and also has good communication skills and also has organizational skills for managing a ticket system. Management can never appreciate that position fully because they've never done that work. So you always are fighting up against that. That's just a constant headwind you're fighting against as a technician. And because of that, they're constantly eyeing an outsourced position. That seems like, to them, that seems like something a contract could do. And that really sucks as a general position. And then lastly, of course, you've got cloud computing. Things like Exchange that used to require a full-time person in a large organization, maybe multiple Exchange servers to administer, is now just a monthly fee that goes up to Intermedia or somebody like that hosts the Exchange server. And everybody's got an offering that's like hosted Exchange or an equivalent like Google Apps. And so things like that continue to take away the Google Docs, Dropbox. All of these things are solutions that the general technician and system administrator used to implement that now are just installations and the average users understand. The bring your own device phenomenon also, again, decreases the requirement of the IT person as the general public becomes more aware of managing their Wi-Fi and things like that. There's really less work for the IT person. So those positions are becoming less and less. So it's really difficult. And that's one of the reasons why at first I got out of being, I honestly saw this coming a long time ago, because as a contractor, one of the things I was doing so I could scale myself was I was selling people unhosted solutions. I would go in there and if they needed Exchange, well, instead of me rolling out Exchange and then making that client suck up a ton of my time, I'd sell them unhosted Exchange. And then when I started doing that, it clicked with me. They're all going to start doing this. And then we got a big problem. And it's just going to happen more and more over time. Plus, you've got immigration that also agitates the situation. So that puts pressure on the wage prices. This is a huge problem.
One of the things I had done was moved from proprietary solutions to open source about 2 years ago. So I'm building LAMP servers on, Shiva plugs for my Asterisk, my small business and home Asterisk installations. Instead of using, I was a Panasonic phone dealer, I am for years, and instead of using their CPUs, PBXs, I'm using Asterisk, which gets me into Postgres, it gets me into MySQL, it gets me into Bind and all of that, which I had fooled with before, but keeps me relevant on that.
Yeah, that was a good bet. That was a good long-term bet you made.
Well, now at least I can put those on the resume.
Yep.
But, it makes me wish I had a bachelor's degree, because that seems to be one of the first filters they put in the search. Well, here's
what experience in open source projects. Here's what that says. When I see that you have experience in Asterisk, then that to me means that you are a self-starter. You're able to do research yourself. You're able to find solutions and implement them. You're on your own, and then you're able to provide support and manage them most likely. Depending on how you answer the questions, I will ask you based on that item on the resume. So, I've done a lot of interviews for people that would come on our IT company, and so I'm a judgy bastard, but all my biases are on the table at the hiring company, so they know what my perspective is. So, there's two different kinds of people. There's people that install the thing out of the box, and there's people that go out and fully research and implement their own thing. Both are valid in different types of IT infrastructures. However, I believe the person who's more often going out and researching the open source implementation, doing that research, implementing and then supporting it, is probably the better long-term employee, because they're probably more capable of staying flexible as technology changes. Additionally, if I'm like a CEO kind of guy, I'm a little stingy on my IT infrastructure. I hear a lot of good things about this Linux and open source, and so if we can leverage some of that to save me some money, and this guy knows how to do it, that's also a good check in my box. Now, I've always been a little worried that can, in the past, that might make me a little too biased. So I've always stayed pretty familiar. In fact, I've always had, when I was doing contracting, all of my clients that had Linux usually had 1 or 2 Windows rigs as well. Sometimes they had more sophisticated, like Active Directory setups and so on. So you got to keep that on there as well. But depending on the client, and in this case it'd be the employer, I would just sort of focus in more on the open source stuff when I felt like it was a little more appropriate. And I think long term, early on when I started doing IT contracting, it was a deficit to recommend Linux. It was a hit to my credibility. Now, this is a long time ago, and this is in Washington, the backyard of Microsoft, where I'm literally in Microsoft's home territory. And at this time, this was back in Microsoft's peak, where Microsoft's handing out money to schools like they are the local hero, right? And I'm the kid going in there saying, use this Linux thing, right? It hurt my credibility, and it was an early bet. And it was one of the reasons why I started the Linux Action Show, because I was doing all these cool things with Linux that people were very skeptical about, and I wanted a platform to talk about how amazing this was, that you could do these things, because I was trained in a Windows world, and then I was discovering all of these solutions I could do with free software, and I needed a platform to talk about it. I was so excited because I wasn't able to express myself through my work because it was sort of looked as a crazy sort of hippie thing. And this is also during the SCO trials, where there was a lot of questions if companies implemented Linux, if they would be held liable for IP infringement. And so that was a battle being fought. And I just needed a place to share my excitement. And thankfully, that bet, I think long term, by the end of my contracting career, I was getting gigs because I was that Linux guy. And it's so crazy to have gone from the guy who was potentially losing clients because he wanted to use Linux to getting clients. And so there's been only a few technology, I think, over the long haul like that have paid off. And I don't see that changing for a long time. I don't see any reason why that changes. Because just as cloud services roll out, there'll be just as many companies, especially the smaller ones that are easy to get clients and contracts that are easy to manage. I'm talking like doctors' offices and things like that. In your local towns, they're going to want local solutions. And those solutions, the best ones, are going to be your own clouds and your Linux-based stuff. So it's a good bet.
I had done that running a company's IT, and they were 100% Mac. They were 100% Apple, and that just wasn't done, at that time. And so Apple even interviewed me for one of their marketing segments about how I had put this company on the internet using Apple equipment. And the way I went around about it is their work group servers had actually been running AUX, which is the first Apple Unix,
right,
with a Mac front end to it. Yep. I think that's what Steve Jobs took off and modified for next. But that was great. But then Apple went through their dark ages where the only people running Apples were like living in a mountain cabin, and they could totally rebuild that machine from scratch. So there are ebbs and flows of each of the technology.
Yep. Yeah, I think so, and I think there's only been a few that have continued to be constant. And to me, that's one of the advantages of sort of investing your knowledge set in the open source ecosystem.
Well, I was thinking of, I'm sorry to interrupt, I was thinking of Red Hat certification because I used Red Hat when you would go to the store and buy a box on the shelf, and then I had a Yellow Dog distribution that would run on my PowerPC Macintosh. And I haven't fooled with it much since then, but it's always been the name in enterprise environments. So
pretty much one of the few certifications that if I was doing an interview, I actually would respect. And that's just my bias, but I think that's not too uncommon. And I think one of the reasons why Noah continues to get his is because he gets clients because he has it.
If it pays in the end, yeah.
So it might be worth, you could always send an email to linuxactionshow@jupiterbroadcasting.com and address it to him and ask him.
Cool, thanks.
All right, so we should probably wrap it up there. Hey, before we get out of here, why don't we mention that that Dare TechSnap t-shirt? Only 4 days left. Teespring.com/TechSnap. They've sold to the limit, so now that means they've tipped it, so that means if you buy one, you will get one. And we have the t-shirt, the ladies, and the long sleeve. I'm wearing today the Linux Action Show long sleeve. So it's kind of like this, only a little different in color, and with the TechSnap logo that is only available there right now. So you can find that over at teespring.com/TechSnap for the new TechSnap 200 logo. And 4 days left to get that. Also, we love your support for the whole network. We're launching some new initiatives. You've heard about one of them. And we could use your support over at patreon.com/today. That helps us work on some of the things we have coming up. And the only reason I've been plugging it very much in the show is because I know you guys know about it and the t-shirts going on. But we are actually currently undergoing a lot of expensive things right now. So we are in the need of funding right now, and we could always use some additional help over at patreon.com/today. And I cannot wait to share it all with you. It's going to be super exciting. And we've already got 2 episodes of How to Linux in the can. Speaking of where some of your funding is going, we're gonna wait through the Beard Apocalypse before we get them all edited together. We'll probably have a few more in the can before we release them. That way we know we can go boom, boom, boom in a row. But I'm really happy about that. And the only reason that's even made possible is because of our supporters over at patreon.com/today. All right, Mumble Room. Hey, guys, thanks for being here all week. Now, you know I'm going to be back on Tuesday. Oh, shite. You know what? I'm a really bad person. I don't think there's no tech talk at all next week because Rikai's out. There won't be anybody here to edit it. And
that's right.
And
that's right.
I could do it, but then I wouldn't be able to do the other shows because I would be editing this show and publishing it. So, yeah. Boy, I wish I would have said something sooner in the show. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm a really bad person. It's all kind of crazy. The Beard Apocalypse, it comes in like a torrent of hair. And I get washed with it, and I'm just sort of writing it. I can't even remember how I functioned without a dedicated editor. Seriously,
it's Beard again, and
the Beard. No, it's not a Beard. No, Beard again. Although that's pretty damn good. That is pretty damn good. I probably should have thought of that. No, it's the Beard Apocalypse. Yeah. So that's
the
what
beard of the century.
No, Beard Apocalypse. It's Beard Apocalypse. I even have a dramatic thing for it.
Wizard.
Jeez Louise. So I'm so sorry I didn't say something earlier in the show. Please don't give up on me though. Come back the next week, okay? All right, we'll just all rest, and then you'll come back and we'll just have a full. Don't all abandon me next. Don't because I take a week off. Don't all leave. For God's sakes, don't leave. You keep pumping that subreddit full of stuff over at techtalktoday.reddit.com, and then we'll be back the following Tuesday. This Sunday is going to be a retro edition of Linux Action Show, but we will be live on Sunday recording some scale stuff. So you can still totes join us. But because no Rikai, there's nobody there to edit, so we're going to be recording stuff for the following week. Oh my God, I'm freaking out just a little bit. Just having a bit of a panic attack. So I'm going to go have some bacon.
Call your coach, take a deep breath.
I know, right? I'll call my life coach. Lauren will walk me through this. All right, now we are celebrating the death of Lenovo. I mean, the mistake of Lenovo by looking back at the ThinkPads back when IBM was really trying to innovate. And this one's particularly fantastic if you're watching the video because it's a Transformer edition of the ThinkPad. I'm just going to leave it at that, and I'll play this for you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here in 1 week. Wow, it's like if Tech Talk Today was only a weekly show. We have to go a whole week. Wow. That's like every single other show on the network. Anyways, enjoy this old retro commercial. I love your faces. See you in a week.
The trouble with most notebooks this size is that most hands are this size. That's why we created the 4.5-pound ThinkPad 701 and gave it a price that makes it easy to get your hands on one.